Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Challenger Network. I'm Brandon Bichler, partner at Elixir. This is the first episode of a new show where we aim to bring you some of the most interesting and sometimes controversial stories from around the business world to debate and discuss. Every week, we're going to pick a topic that's worth digging into, and of course, we'd love to hear your views in the comments as we do. So please let us know what you think, and also let us know if you think there's a topic that we should cover in the future. Today, I'm joined by KarinaVanDenOever and Catherine Erdly. Karina is a partner at Elixir, and Catherine Erdly is the founder of the Resilient Retail Club, and we'd love to certainly hear a little bit more about that. But why don't we just do a quick intro? Karina, would you like to just introduce yourself?
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Brandon. Hi, I'm KarinaVanDenOever. I'm a partner at Elixir, as Brandon said. I work mainly in kind of retail, consumer goods, luxury space, and anything around strategy, innovation, and change. So really happy to be here today.
Thank you, Karina. And Catherine, tell us more about the Resilient Retail Club.
Sure. Thank you, Brandon. Thank you so much for having me. My name is Catherine Erdly. I'm the founder of the Resilient Retail Club. It's my membership group for creative product businesses. So I help them come up with sales strategies, manage their stock, and build resilient businesses. And I've got 20 years experience in the retail industry. I spent 17 years in high street, UK high street retailer, UK and US high street retailers. And then for the last 3 years, I've worked exclusively with startup businesses and brands. And I do that through my membership and also through one-to-one consultancy.
Amazing. Definitely check out your website if for those of you who are on the show today. So today we're going to talk about a topic that was in the news this week. That is a UK retail story, but it's certainly applicable to retail around the world if you're joining us from other markets. Online fashion retailer Boohoo has agreed to buy the brand of department store Debenhams, just as ASOS sets its sights on Topshop. Boohoo is going to pay $55 million for the intellectual property, including customer data of Debenhams. And ASOS said it was in exclusive talks to acquire the Topshop, Topman, Miss Selfridge, and Hit brands that were part of Arcadia. The reason we wanted to talk about this today is because neither ASOS nor Boohoo, as we currently understand it, want to operate physical shops. And that means that Debenhams, I think 118 department stores and more than 400 sites occupied by Arcadia look set to close potentially for good. So what does this mean for the UK high street and retail more broadly? Let's talk about that with our guests today. So Catherine, let's start with you. I'd love to hear what you think, getting your initial reactions to these moves. Does it make sense for Boohoo and ASOS?
Yeah, sure. So I think the ASOS Topshop one, if we start with that one is a pretty clear synergy there. They both are fashion retailers. ASOS already has a stable of in-house brands. They can add Topshop and Topman, Miss Selfridge to those names. They have very high brand recognition in the UK. So a lot of that makes sense, and you can easily see the synergy. The Boohoo one is more interesting because obviously the Debenhams brand is a different demographic. Boohoo clearly much younger, Debenhams skewing older, and Boohoo being known for its clothing, whereas Debenhams, although it is one of the top fashion retailers in the UK, it has a much broader range which covers beauty, home, kids, menswear. It's seen much more as a generalist retailer. So I think for Boohoo, though, it is a savvy move. You know, they're slick online operators, so they're not taking the stores, they're taking the Debenhams name, which has a huge amount of history and heritage. And it also means they're tapping into a new market that maybe wouldn't be open to shopping from the Boohoo name, but it gives them a well-established brand and the opportunity to try different product areas.
And specifically diversifying away from just some of the fast fashion that they've been focusing on.
Yeah, absolutely. The fast fashion and also, you know, the kind of some toxicity around fast fashion has been creeping in recently. The more, you know, the customer wants to, or there is an increasingly large number of customers that want to shop consciously, that have concerns about fast fashion from all standpoints, from the supply chain to the environmental impact. So I could see for Boohoo having a name like Debenhams, which doesn't have that kind of clear associations, probably kind of a nice thing for them to add to their business.
Yeah, I think what I was going to say is the economics of the Debenhams Boohoo deal. So to be honest, I too, when I first saw the news, I was like, oh, that's a surprise, completely different demographic. Exactly the things that you've said, Catherine. But when you look at the economics of the commercials of the deal, right, for the 55 million, they're going to get basically 400 million in revenue and 300 million visitors a year. So being a top 10 retailer, I mean, that cements them as a major retail player. And again, not any of the stores. So it is really playing to their strength of bringing that customer experience online and that savviness and bringing that into the Debenhams fold. So I thought, and the ASOS Topshop, absolute. I think that's a no-brainer. I mean, they already carry Topshop. It's already one of their biggest brands. And so the demographics and the customer base is very much aligned. So see that as clear, kind of understand that move very clearly.
Is this the start of something we'll start to see, you think, with other moves by other players? I don't think we need to necessarily speculate on who that might be, but what do you think? Is this the beginning of a new trend?
I think if the price is right and the opportunities come up, then I could see that maybe that, the kind of brand value, the value that these brands have, if there are other brands with heritage and with that sort of tradition or that reputation that go into administration, you could see them in the same way that Marks and Spencer's bought the Jaeger brand on a smaller scale, obviously, but I could see that would be a trend.
Yeah, I think it's quite an opportunistic play, right? So if you think of Boohoo, they have, I think, another 75 million to spend on acquisitions, and there are a lot of companies that are struggling, particularly from last year and what happened with the lockdown and not being ready for it, right? Everyone was propelled to the online world and not everyone was prepared. And so shaky financials put companies at risk, sadly. And if there are no points of differentiation, I think it will continue. I think the question I think is, are we going to have these the Arcadia of the online world? Is Boohoo going to become the house of brands like Arcadia was, but only online, right? So not necessarily maybe with physical stores, although that's to be debated, and let's talk about that momentarily. But I can see that, right? Boohoo becomes the house of brands, right? So that is targeting several different socio-demographic groups and different categories, et cetera, but all online in an online world.
But I think that's an interesting point, though, because I think what remains to be seen is that Boohoo, obviously they know a lot about operating an online retailer, but there's operating an online retailer and then there's sourcing, creating assortments, creating desirable products across multiple ranges that maybe Boohoo haven't, and demographics that Boohoo haven't even tapped into. So I do think that I've no doubt that they can easily assimilate the sort of operational side of Debenhams, but the question is going to be actually around the product teams that so often get overlooked when we talk about these brands. But it's the buying teams, the merchandise, the designers, the sourcing. That's going to be crucial. Like, who are they going to bring in to do that? And are those people going to be able to translate what the Debenhams customer wants? And then obviously they'll be getting some stock, but how do they move that forward?
Well, I think that interesting, because actually the fact that e-commerce players have a lot of data, that's where the beauty is, right? Is they'll have that data to be able to make those decisions faster and better. And it's about how quickly Boohoo will be able, or any company, right, that acquires and enters a new market online, is how quickly they are able to turn that data into insight and actually then adapt and improve the offering online. And who knows, actually we can move into the Boohoo's model of sourcing close to home in order to be able to meet demand quite quickly. Maybe that we can see that in other categories as well.
Interesting. I think we do need to talk about this physical store, the future of the physical store. I must admit, COVID made me an online shopper. I used to not understand it at all, mostly because of the return. It just felt like, what if I have to return something that feels inconvenient? But here I am. I've become an online shopper, a complete convert. You go onto a nice Shopify-enabled website, and it's super easy. So I've learned that. On the other hand, I certainly, as many of us do, miss the human interactions. I miss the experience. I miss something that we're just not getting through this lockdown. So let's talk about the physical store. What do we think this means? Is this the end of the physical store, retail store as we know it? or is there a new model that we can expect to see? Maybe Catherine, start with you.
Sure. I think that the particularly what we're talking about here with Debenhams and Topshop, I think that to see it as like an online versus offline is kind of a little it oversimplifies what has really been happening. I think what is true is that the model of having a multi-chain retailer with hundreds of stores to service the UK, for example, to be importing from China at high margins, selling through large volumes, frequent discounting, all the rest of it. That kind of model has been under pressure for years, not just 2020, not just even the 2010s, but really since before, around the 2008, the economic crisis, the Lehman Brothers crisis. So this it's kind of been eroding away, and a lot of the big retail failures that we've seen in recent years have just been when that balance has tipped from those wafer thin profit margins then tipping into loss. So I definitely don't think that what we're seeing here is saying that retail, physical retail is dead. Obviously, it's going to have a major impact because both of these chains had hundreds and hundreds of stores, so they will be leaving holes. But I don't think that it's necessarily true that it's because they were physical retailers. I think there was more to do with the model. So for me, I think we're going to see a big change in physical retail. I think we will see smaller footprints and we'll see a more diversified high street. But I definitely don't think it means it's the end of the store.
So
what is that? What is our future high street going to look and feel like then, Karina?
So when I think about so this debate about is the high street dead, I feel like in the world of retail we've been having this debate for the last 10 years, right? And it's just accelerated in the last year, and people were forced into it and thrown into it. And I've been thinking about this, sort of what is the future high street going to look like? I think there are going to be 5 kinds of stores on the high street, or 5 kinds of outlets in the high street. One is kind of the really experiential, discovery, explore, those types of stores where you want to have that amazing experience and really learn, discover, and be surprised. And the second one is really having these specialist stores that have a very, very unique offering that you can't find anywhere else. So whether that be independents or whether that be specialist stores like, for example, ASOS or Everlane that are really differentiating themselves from everybody else. Third one is obviously convenience stores we're still going to need, right? We're always going to run out of milk or loo roll and we'll need it immediately. Yes, there are 1-hour deliveries, but I don't know if that's ever going to be economically viable. And then the fourth thing is post offices, right? Or rather places where you can return. You mentioned, Brandon, around the pain of returning that prevented you from going online before. We need to make it easier for consumers, and therefore having those post offices is really going to help. And the last one I think is showrooms for online players, right? I really think that I can see online players who have got the data and the insight, who will be able to fine-tune exactly what the demographics of particular location is and understand what the consumers in that location are buying, when they're buying, and what are they buying with, and being able to refine an assortment very well and curate it. And they want that engagement, right? We all want to go back and see people and have that human connection. And I think they're going to need that. And we're seeing a little bit of that trend in the US right now with some of those big brands that have moved from online to offline. So that's kind of my view.
Catherine, final view to wrap us up on this topic.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with Karina. I think that you've really hit the nail on the head with this assortment. I think we'll see fewer shops. I would like to think we'll see more mixed use, so residential mixed in with shops to kind of to avoid leaving empty spaces. And also, again, hopefully some innovative uses for some of these big retail spaces like the Debenhams that are closing, and again, mixed use there. Maybe it's retail on the bottom and residential above, or who knows. I don't think we're going to see these sort of cavernous high street stores that maybe we once had. But I think that very much, again, I work a lot with independent and independent brands online and offline. And I think that people want to shop locally. They want to support independent and small businesses. I think there are more and more small businesses who are coming online who will need some kind of space, not huge space necessarily, but either to to literally work from, or to showcase their goods and to get in front of a physical audience. So I think that what we could see is actually a real diversification and move towards unique high streets. And I think that it could actually be a really positive movement for the high street. I feel quite optimistic.
Well, I have to say what you described sounds pretty good to me. I'm afraid that's all the time we have for today. So short session, but that doesn't mean that we don't have to stop the debate and stop the questions. If you in the audience want to continue the debate and the discussion, you can do so in the comments below, and we'll certainly stick around and answer questions and join in the discussion with you. I want to thank my guests for joining us, Karina and Catherine. It's been fascinating to hear your perspectives. And thanks to all of you for joining us for the Challenger Network. We'll be back next Friday with another topic. And of course, if there's anything you'd like us to discuss, please put your suggestions in the comments below. Otherwise, we'll see you next week.
Thank you.